Hello and welcome to Before You Pull, where we will show off the kits and details of upcoming characters as well as some recommended teams and disc setups to help you plan your pulls. All of the following is from the creator servers, so things are still subject to change. But this time we're going over Miyabi, our first playable Void Hunter. So she's definitely getting a lot of special treatment, and that can definitely be seen through her kit. Miyabi is a Frost Anomaly agent, but don't let the anomaly tag fool you. She plays very much like an attacker agent, being heavily focused on crits and her regular attacks as opposed to anomaly damage. However, the reason she is an anomaly agent is because of her unique Frost element, which is essentially the ice element but with a bonus effect. It can trigger a special frostbite effect that helps out the rest of the team apply their own anomalies, and it builds up more of Miyabi's bigger attacks. By applying the frostbite anomaly onto an enemy, not only does it do a chunk of damage, but it also increases the anomaly build-up rate for the entire team, and it gives her a point of Fallen Frost. And then when Miyabi uses her EX special, or when other agents apply their own anomaly to trigger a disorder, Miyabi will get 2 more points of Fallen Frost, which can then be used for her big held basic attack where she does the cool Virgil Slash. Let's explain the whole Frost mechanic though a bit more by looking at her core passive. Miyabi builds up her own Frost gauge whenever she deals damage. The build-up rate of this anomaly is increased by 100% of her critical rate, up to a maximum of 80%. So basically, crit rate on Miyabi functions as both crit rate and anomaly mastery, although not explicitly. When the anomaly is triggered, it causes freeze and shatter, so the typical ice ones, as well as frostbite, which does a chunk of damage scaling off of her attack. This also causes the enemy to enter a frost burn state, where their anomaly buildup is increased. The values for the damage and the buildup rate is dependent on the core passive level. While an enemy is in this frostbite state, Miyabi can still build up the anomaly again, but the chunk of damage cannot be done while the enemy is still in frostbite. So, ideally, you want to take advantage of the anomaly buildup and have another agent come in and trigger their own anomaly, overwriting the frostbite. And as for her team passive, when another squad member is a support agent or from the same faction, her held basic attack just straight up does 60% more damage for free, and then, whenever a disorder is triggered, Miyabi gains 2 points of Fallen Frost. And then what's more, the held basic attack also ignores 30% of the target's ice resistance. As for her regular skills, Miyabi's basic attack is a standard 5-hit combo. And as a side note, it does look very cool and flashy. But the big thing here is her other basic attack, Shimotsuki, which is the held basic attack. This attack requires at least 2 stacks of Fallen Frost to perform, and it has 3 levels, each requiring 2, 4, or 6 stacks. This is her strongest attack, and your goal should be to spam this as much as possible. At skill level 12, the multiplier for the full charge attack is 4,286%, which is more than the ultimate multipliers for every other agent in the game. And when using this attack, Miyabi is invulnerable throughout the entire attack. It's literally like a mini ultimate. Her special skill is a pretty standard damaging attack, rushing down the enemy and teleporting behind them, but it also generates 2 points of Fallen Frost. And if you have enough energy, you can press the skill button again to perform a follow-up attack which gives another 2 points of Fallen Frost. So her gameplay loop of building up 6 stacks of Fallen Frost and then using the held basic attack is very smooth and simple. You just spam her basic attack and her EX special to build up the Frost anomaly, and then once Frost Burn is triggered, she gets 1 more stack of Fallen Frost, and then if the team bonus is active, you switch to another agent, trigger their anomaly, and that gives Miyabi another 2 stacks, and then you can switch back to Miyabi and then unleash her held basic attack and rinse and repeat. Miyabi's assists are your typical parries with nothing else special, and for the most part her dodge attacks are also pretty standard, but one nice thing to note is that if you hold the dodge button, she instead does this very long dash that covers a lot of ground, which can help you stick to enemies that like to jump around. Miyabi's chain attack is just again another standard attack which does damage, nothing special there, but the ultimate is very powerful. Firstly, when using the ultimate, not only does she gain 3 stacks of Fallen Frost to help get off another held basic attack, but her ice damage is also increased by 30% for 12 seconds. However, what's more is that the damage multiplier on Miyabi's ultimate is by far the highest in the game. At level 12, it is a 4,776% multiplier. The next highest ultimate multiplier is Soldier 11 with 4,206%. Now though, that's enough about Miyabi by herself. What about her teams? Well, very good news for all of you out there. Miyabi is very versatile when it comes to team selection, as she herself could honestly be the entire team, since she can deal damage both through her direct attacks and even a bit through her anomaly. Whoever you add into the squad will just make things smoother. She can either be slotted into an anomaly-centric team to of course trigger more disorders and abuse the anomaly buildup from Frostburn, but she can also work in a stunner team, letting her take advantage of those stun multipliers with the very high damage output from her own attacks. Next though, Miyabi's disc setup. With 1.4, we have a new set made specifically for her, the Branch and Blade Song. So definitely go for 4 pieces here, which will not only give her 16% crit damage, but if her Anomaly Mastery is 115 or more, she gets a further 30% crit damage increase. And when any squad member applies Freeze or Shatter, which Miyabi's Frostburn can do as well, she will also get 12% crit rate for 15 seconds. As for the 2-piece set, you can either go with Woodpecker Electro for some crit rate if you need it, otherwise Polar Metal for an extra 10% ice damage is also an option. For the main stats, you want attack on slot 6, ice damage or attack on slot 5, and either crit rate or crit damage on slot 4. Again, you want to get around 80% crit rate in total so that it can be converted to anomaly build-up as well. Then after that, the rest can go into crit damage. Moving on to engines though. Miyabi's signature engine, the Hailstorm Shrine, is very unique because of the fact that Miyabi is an anomaly agent. Firstly, it gives crit rate as its main stat, and for the effect, it gives a whopping 50% crit damage for free. And then when using an EX special attack or when an anomaly is triggered, the equipper's ice damage increases by 20% for 15 seconds, and this buff can stack twice. So, more crit damage, more crit rate, which also counts as anomaly build-up, and then up to 40% more damage on top of that? Unsurprisingly, this is an insane engine for Miyabi. And as I mentioned, because Miyabi is an anomaly agent, there aren't many alternatives to this. She wants crit rate and crit damage, and no other anomaly engine can provide this. The best alternative would be to use an attacker engine just for the main stat alone, foregoing any bonus effect. It's kinda similar to how Caesar was a defender that wanted impact, and no other defender engine could provide that for her. Now again, she is definitely usable even without the engine, but if you are wondering if you should go for more Mindscapes versus an engine, I'd first try to grab her engine, especially since the odds are a bit more weighted in your own favor there as opposed to Mindscapes. Speaking of Mindscapes, let's go over those though. Mindscape 1 improves the held attack. For every point of Fallen Frost used, the attack will ignore 6% of the target's defense, so that is up to 36% at max charge. And then, if a fully charged attack hits an enemy affected by the Frostburn anomaly, it removes the effect and increases the anomaly build-up against that enemy by 20% for 10 seconds. Now, this 20% increase is essentially the equivalent to her core skills effect at maximum level, and the nice thing about it is that by overwriting the Frostburn effect, this can let Miyabi loop the Frostburn anomaly again while still having the same benefits as if it were still applied. Mindscape 2 is the big one. It increases the damage of her regular basic attack and dodge counter by 30%, but what's more is that after doing a full string of her regular basic attack, it gives her 1 point of Fallen Frost. She now also starts combat with 6 points right off the get-go, and her crit rate is also increased by 15%. The extra stats here are just pretty good already, but giving Miyabi another method of getting Fallen Frost, and so easily too, requiring just a spam of basic attacks, is insanely powerful. Mindscape 4 increases the chunk of damage dealt when applying Frostburn by 30%, and when applying the effect, Miyabi also gains 250 more decibels. Mindscape 6 further improves the held attack, firstly by increasing the damage by 30%, and then, while charging, Miyabi will automatically unleash some slashes while she charges up to 3 times, once per charge level. This effectively makes it as if she can use each level of the attack as she charges up, instead of only using the highest level attack. For those of you aiming for dupes, I think a healthy stopping ground, if you're willing to do it, would be Mindscape 2. Mindscape 1 gives her a nice damage bonus, but doesn't really change how she plays too much, so it might be a bit difficult to notice the differences to her kit, but Mindscape 2 giving her an easier time in gaining Fallen Frost stacks makes her even easier and, in my opinion, more fun than she already is. So all in all, personally, I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that Miyabi is probably the strongest agent we have seen so far in the game, and I would hope so. She is a Void Hunter after all. She has insane damage output, and her kit is very easy to understand, and she can fit in so many different teams. I don't think you can go wrong with pulling for Miyabi if you are interested in strong agents. So I feel like the question isn't should you pull Miyabi, but rather how hard should you pull for her. Now, that being said though, she is still very serviceable even if you only get her at Cinema Mindscape 0 without her engine. But because of the whole crit focused anomaly situation, the improvement you get with her signature engine will be much bigger in comparison to when you get a different agent and their signature engine. And then as for Mindscapes, like I said, personally for me, I'm going to be aiming for Mindscape 2 just for that extra Fallen Frost point accumulation. You'll have seen throughout the gameplay shown, I had Miyabi at Mindscape 0, and And you saw how often I was using Miyabi's regular attacks. Imagine how many more Fallen Frost points or held basic attacks I could have gotten instead if she was at Mindscape 2. Otherwise though, thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, liking, commenting and subscribing is greatly appreciated. And in the meantime, why not consider checking out the Haramasa guy too? We're all gonna get him anyway. Or if you're curious to know more about the upcoming decibel system changes, I have a video for that as well. If you're planning on pulling for Miyabi, I wish you the best of luck in your pulls. And so, until next time, bye bye!